This is the Wisekrakrbusiness, and today we're going to talk about the Saryn Prime, ladies and gentlemen. But before we can do that, here are the places you can find all the blueprint parts for this beautiful Warframe. The Saryn Prime also has two great augments, but those will be talked about in another video. So now it is time for the build, and as you can see on the left hand side, we got a lot of power duration and a lot of power strength, and around 100% of efficiency and range. Duration is so that our abilities will bother our enemies for a long time, and strength, of course, because we want to hurt them for a long time. The first ability is called Spores, where you put a spore on your enemy and that will deal viral damage, and if it gets popped, you'll deal toxin damage to all the enemies surrounding that one enemy. So once you put a spore on an enemy, it will deal damage for 27 seconds, and popping that spore will deal toxin damage to all the other enemies surrounding him, and you will have 100% status chance for viral and toxin effects. You can even bypass certain shields or even doors and other obstructions. The second ability is called Mold, and this is where the Saryn Prime will shed her skin and your enemies will be drawn to that mold. The decoy will have shield and health, and it will explode if it will lose those things. But if it isn't touched or destroyed, it will stand there for 1.5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. The health and the explosion damage are affected by power strength, and the duration by power duration, of course. And since this build has a lot of both, you can imagine that this ability will be very handy, and you can put your mold wherever you like, even in the air. So what you can do is you can put a mold down and start putting spores on them. Every time a spore gets popped, it will deal damage on the enemies popping those spores. And in the end, when the mold explodes, it will deal all the damage with the toxin and the viral of the spores. So ladies and gentlemen, the mold can help when you are stuck with large groups of enemies and you need something to hold them off. Just put a mold down and start confusing them. And in the end, it will also deal a lot of damage. The third ability is called Toxic Lash. And basically what you do, ladies and gentlemen, is put a lot of toxin damage on your melee weapon. So now every time you use your melee weapon, you deal toxin damage. The toxin damage does not combine with the elemental damage of your melee weapon. The ability will last for 1 minute, and in that 1 minute, you can deal a lot of toxin damage if you also put some spores on your enemies and start cutting them with the Toxic Lash. You will deal more damage, and for every spore you pop on an enemy with Toxic Lash, you restore 2 energy to the Saryn. And now the ultimate ability, Miasma. And this is where the Saryn Prime will pollute the atmosphere and corrode all enemies in range. But if you already put some spores or toxin damage on your enemies, it will deal even more damage, ladies and gentlemen. And since this build has a lot of strength and also a lot of duration, every time you use Miasma, you deal a lot of damage to your enemies for a long time. And if those enemies are already damaged by viral or toxin damage, you will deal double the damage. And the damage you inflict while using Miasma is corrosive damage. So when your enemies are afflicted by the spores, you will deal an extra 100% damage to them. Your mold will explode within an instant, but deals a lot of toxin damage, and people or enemies that are affected by the Toxin Lash will also have an additional 100% damage on their butts. So now that we have talked about all the abilities, it's time to check them out. And we are doing a sortie mission here against Corpus Bastard. And as you can see, I used my spores upon him and then the Miasma. And as you can see, the spores have popped. And now all those bastards are inflicted by toxin damage and viral damage, of course. And soon enough, they will be dying like little flies. So, ladies and gentlemen, this Saryn Prime is a very dangerous girl. She's poisonous and dangerous, especially when you use all your abilities in tandem, ladies and gentlemen. So you can use your spores to deal a little damage on your enemies. And then you can use your mold to distract them, or to maybe buy some time to reload your weapon or anything. Then use your toxic lash to deal even more damage and to pop some of those spores. And then in the end, you use your Miasma and kill every flippin' bastard that surrounds you. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Saryn Prime. Isn't she beautiful? Well, I think so. And now you can get her too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. Check me out in all my other ones. And I hope to see you there. And until then, adios.
One last time.
Well, I guess it is time for battle, and the battle is against these Tomb Protectors, and they look a lot like the new Inaros, only a little bit of shadowy, just like the Shadow Stalker, only the Inaros. So I thought, well, that will be easy enough, just kill a... And suddenly there is Groot. Groot is after me. He is trying to kill me, so... Oh my god.